Hi friends, it's Annika. Welcome back to my channel. More specifically, welcome to a reading vlog. I love knowing that it's one of them, but not knowing who. Is absolutely, without a doubt, 5 stars. I'm so on edge in these last 10 pages. I haven't done one of these in what feels like forever. For a while there, I just wasn't reading much. And when I was reading, I was taking like a month to finish a book, which is just not super entertaining to vlog. In the midst of all of this, I hit a very severe reading slump and I don't know what caused it. Actually, I will say my phone has fed into that like so horribly. I just have gotten into a really bad habit of doom scrolling. This vlog is honestly just a journey to hopefully get me out of a reading slump. I feel like there's some indicators we can look for when getting out of a reading slump. One of them being I need to be able to finish at least one book in like under a week to 10 days, because that's how I know like I'm excited to read, I'm in the habit of reading. Second indicator I'm out of a reading slump is that I'm actually excited to read. For a while there, it felt like I was forcing myself to sit down and read. And third is that I can finish at least 3 to 4 books within this vlog. We're starting on a good note because the first book we're starting with is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I was so excited to pick this up. I was waiting for cozy season specifically this year to read this book because it is my favorite time to read dark academia. I read The Secret History last fall and I absolutely loved it. I rated it 6 stars. It was one of my 6-star reads for the year, and that really opened my eyes to like a whole new, I guess, type of literature that I like. The reason that brings us to this book, if you've never heard of it, is this is also a dark academia book and it is widely compared to The Secret History. If you like The Secret History, this is always like a follow-up recommendation. I'm loving it so much so far. I'm on page 200, so I'm a little bit over halfway through. In this book, our main character is Oliver Marks. He has 6 other friends that we get to know very well throughout the book. They're very complicated, and because of what they do, they're such a niche type of student, and that in itself makes it even more interesting. Oliver and his 6 other friends are Shakespearean actors at Delaware Classical Conservatory, so they go to like this private classical school together. What's really interesting about this, and is also similar to The Secret History, is the book opens immediately with like a jaw-dropping revelation. Within the first few pages of the book, it's revealed that Oliver is just getting released from 10 years in jail for a murder he was convicted of. And that's kind of all we know. So then the book takes us back in a past timeline where we follow Oliver and his friends and we're watching the story like very slowly unfold. And I do want to note that the first, I would say 100 pages of this book, I wouldn't say they're hard to get through, but you just need to know what you're like getting into, which is basically just a lot of Shakespeare's quotes, which are very hard to follow for me, especially without context, because a lot of times they're just throwing out these Shakespearean lines to each other within conversation. It's hard to follow because I don't actually understand what they're saying. So that's like a whole other reason I would love to like reread this book or like read up more on it, because I feel like there's nuances that I'm missing within that. And so within the first 100 pages, you're really just getting to know them as friends, as students, the very intense rivalries between them because they're at this like very prestigious school, and the way they're placed as actors within those plays really creates like this hierarchy within the friend group. First, it's kind of confusing because there's all these names being thrown at you and all these descriptions, but once you get a little bit more into it, you start to find the flow of it. And I'm not surprised with who got murdered, but I am shocked with how early it came in the book. In The Secret History, the murder comes a lot later in the book, and in this one, it's a lot earlier, which I think is great for the pacing of this book. I'm having a very, very, very good time with this one, so it's a very good start. I've been liking classical music while I read and write. page 280, so I have like 70 pages left. It is 9:30, so I feel like if I read for another hour and a half, I probably could. I don't know how long it takes me to read 70 pages, clearly. I am ready to know what happens, and I'm ready to start a new book, even though I'm having such a good time with this one. I always feel like there's like a sweet spot with reading one book where even if it's like a 5-star read, if you read it for too long or if you spend too much time with it, at least for me, I get bored no matter what. Things are extremely tense at this point. We are definitely at a point where Oliver and the rest of the friends, they're just basically at their breaking point since one of their best friends and classmates has been murdered. It got so messy so quickly. You see a lot of them struggle with drawing a line between reality and the characters they play and just like the embellishments they add to their own personal character because of their like obsession with acting and with Shakespeare. And it's getting super hard for them to distinguish between the two. It's their last semester at Delature, so they're supposed to graduate. They're like graduating seniors. This is the most intense time of their 4 years there because they're having scouts come watch their plays and they're still being put under this immense pressure to perform at such a high level in theater, and like their friend has just died and they've just gone through all this personal trauma because they've all agreed to not say certain truths that they know. Everyone's looking very guilty. They're starting to turn on each other. There's a lot of division happening within the friend group, and it's all just so entertaining. I love knowing that it's one of them but not knowing who, and trying to figure it out like the entire time. It's keeping me guessing, which I love. And I seriously love dark academia like so much. I really need more recommendations for this genre because the top two I had always heard were If We Were Villains and The Secret History. In the days since we last talked, I finished If We Were Villains. I am just going to wrap this up really quickly because I absolutely love this book. So my rating for this is a 4.75 stars. And I don't have things I didn't like about this book necessarily. It just didn't give me that feeling. I really liked the pacing of this one. I can't help but compare it to The Secret History because they're so similar. But I really, really liked the pacing of this one. It doesn't make you wait too long to get into like the mystery and the murder and the suspects, whereas The Secret History really makes you wait a long time. The plot twists in this book I thought were really good. I didn't guess them. To be fair, I'm really bad at guessing plot twists, which I actually don't mind because that means I never actually like spoil an ending for myself. Like I'm always surprised. I wrote down some thoughts. Let me just make sure I tell you everything that I wanted to tell you. I've entered like my simple reading journal era. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but I went through like the whole bullet journal, reading journal crafting phase where it's like really extravagant, basically like bullet journaling for your reading journal. This is much more me, and I'm just gonna print a little picture of the book and put it right there. And I just keep it open while I'm reading, and I'm like writing thoughts, and it's really helpful for a reading vlog because then I can just open it up and make sure I'm telling you everything I want to tell you. One thing I never really understood, and I feel like if I did fully understand it, the book would have been even better, the Shakespeare quotes, like the context of which Shakespeare quotes were used and why they were in those places and why the characters would recite them in conversation and in certain situations, like over my head, completely over my head. Like I maybe understood like a handful, and that's just understanding the verbiage. Like I don't understand the context. I don't know where those quotes are being pulled from, but even not understanding those parts, thoroughly enjoyed the book. These students are just so immersed in their characters. They're being put in such extreme acting situations, and they're like not putting boundaries between that and their real life. And so it drives them mad, essentially. I really like the last line of the book. I thought the ending of the book was so good. Something I love about this book, and I love that The Secret History did it too, on page 1 immediately, they basically show you the scene of a train wreck. You see the crash ending, and then it takes you all the way back and you start from the beginning. And I love when authors do that. I think it is amazing. I think it makes me invested immediately. Throughout the entire book, I keep thinking back to page 1 and I'm like, but how did they get there? That is my thoughts on If We Were Villains. I really, really enjoyed the book like so much. And the next book that we're reading I already picked. It is upstairs, so I'm not gonna go get it, but I have chosen The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and I'm very, very excited. When I put this on my story, so many people DM'd me and they were like, that's my favorite book. I'm really excited to read the book. I think it's gonna be an emotional ride and I can't wait. There's some books I read just for pure entertainment, and then there's books I read because I want the effect. Like, I want to be changed as a reader. There are certain authors that do that for me, like Kristen Hanna, Frederick Bachman, and I just feel like Matt Haig is gonna be one of those. Before I continue the book, I thought we could chat through what it's about, because now I'm on page 120. I am just honestly flying through this book. It is so easy to get through. I also downloaded the audiobook, so the other night when I was baking, I was listening to it. The first 100 pages were like so seamless to fly through, which is my favorite thing, because I personally find the first 100 pages usually the hardest or the slowest to get through. At this point, I feel like I have a really good grasp on our main character. We have gotten to know her very thoroughly within the first 100 pages. Like, I feel very familiar with her. Her name is Nora, and I just want to preface by saying, if you're sensitive to sensitive topics, I would definitely look up the trigger warnings and the themes for this book and just some of like the things that are written about, because there is a lot of talk at the beginning of ideation of unaliving yourself. I think that's how you're supposed to say it on YouTube. And Nora basically like follows through with attempting that. At the beginning of the book, Nora is going through a very difficult time in her life. I believe she is 35 and she has just hit like an ultimate rock bottom, essentially. She is distant from her family. She works a job that is unfulfilling to her. She is basically nowhere near where she thought she would be at that age, and she doesn't have a husband, she doesn't have kids, she's alone. Everything just piles onto her at once, and she realizes how unhappy and unfulfilled she is in her life. And that is how she ends up in the Midnight Library. And the Midnight Library is essentially a huge library with a collection of books, and those books are different versions of the life she could have lived. First of all, the writing in this book is amazing. I love how easy it is to understand, but still deep. Like, there's still a lot of depth to it. There's amazing quotes in here that I really connect with. I think if you're a very reflective person like I am, I'm easily nostalgic, then you will really connect with this kind of book. So we see her explore these different versions of her own life if she had just made different choices. And so it's really, really interesting to see how no matter where she ends up and no matter which book she opens, there is like something severely wrong with those realities, and those are choices that she's like romanticized in her mind. They're mainly like regrets. So she regrets, for example, like not moving to Australia with her best friend, so she opens that book and there is something like severely wrong with that life. And I think it just goes to show the grass is always greener. And I'm pretty sure the whole point of this book is you are exactly where you're meant to be. You're living the life you were meant to live. The constant regret of decisions that we didn't make can literally ruin your current life if you let it. When I was reading this, I also like have my reading journal going. And so one of the things I was thinking about when I was reading this was like, what would be the books on my shelf? One of them would be like, if I moved to New York at a young age. But there's really something comforting in the fact that every time she opens one of these books that she thinks is a better life, it's like horrible. Another one I think would be on my shelf was like, what if I pursued ballet? When I heard about the theme of this book, that is like the first thing I thought of, because when I decided to stop dancing when I was 19 because I didn't want to pursue it professionally or in college because I didn't want to teach it, I went through like a serious grieving process for that part of my life, and I had like dedicated myself to it for so long, and I had to like mourn the life that I wasn't gonna live, which might feel so foreign saying it in this video because you know this version of me, but like that was such a real version of me and such a real reality I thought was gonna come true, and like having to let that go caused a lot of like doubt in my mind in my early 20s. This book is just like so comforting to me because I've come over time to the realization that like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I have my dream job. I have found things I love now just as much as I love ballet. There's also this really amazing quote at the beginning by Sylvia Plath that says, "I can never be all the people I want and live all the lives I want. I can never train myself in all the skills I want, and why do I want? I want to live and feel all the shades, tones, and variations of mental and physical experience possible in my life." I just think that is so accurate of one of the biggest struggles with our lives. I'm gonna cozy up and read for the rest of the evening. I really want to get through more of this. Hello friends, I am here with an update. It's been a minute since I've talked to this reading vlog, but I finally finished The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I finished it like an hour ago. I am going to rate this a solid 4 stars. So I overall loved like the structure of this book. It is short and sweet. It is only 280 pages and it gets straight to the point within like the first 5 pages of the book. What's really cool and nice about Matt Haig's writing, at least what I'm picking up from this book, is that he has a lot of depth to his writing, but it's not hard to understand. The chapters are so short, if you would even call them that. I felt like they were more like sections. Like there's one chapter, literally next page, another one. So it felt more like the book was divided in like these mini sections. There was so many good quotes throughout this book, and I feel like there was a lot of like explicit one-liners about the theme, which I think is self-discovery and not living with regret. The author does point out those themes in very explicit ways with certain quotes throughout the book that are great quotes. I underlined, I highlighted, I kind of used whatever was near me. I tabbed like 2 quotes, but then also he does a really good job of storytelling in a way that you are coming to these conclusions yourself without him having to explicitly write it or Nora explicitly realize these things about not living with regret and finding hope and realizing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. There's so much symbolism within each of the different lives that she gets to pop into and experience. This book is really great at explaining why living with regret or living with constant what ifs about your life is actually like a really harmful way of thinking. I think we hear a lot like comparison is the thief of joy, and it's so easy to realize when you're comparing yourself to others. What I love that this book points out is that you are also capable of comparing yourself to other versions of yourself that you think you should be that actually don't exist. I love books like this because it changes my perspective on my own life and the way I look at life. I thought it was so insightful, but extremely simple and easy to understand and easy to fly through, and the audiobook was also really good. Now I'm going to tell you about a problem that I'm having. The problem I'm having is I started this reading vlog a month ago and I've only read 2 books. And that's like usually fine for a casual reader, but if I'm trying to get a reading vlog up in a timely manner, we need to pick up the pace a little bit. I know right now I want to start a new book. I think I might buy one on my Kindle or like my iPad through the Kindle app because I got an iPad for Christmas and I'm a complete iPad kid and I really want to read a book on it. I'm feeling either literary fiction or fantasy. I came into my office to do like a little reading catch up, and then I remembered I literally don't have a desk chair, so I'm gonna do this from the floor. 2 days ago I started The Bright Years, and I've been reading it on my iPad, which is ginormous. I am 30% through. I have really been in the mood lately for just like general fiction, literary fiction. I heard Sarah Crowley talk about this once, and she gave it like a raving 5-star review, and honestly that's all I need from like people I watch whose book taste I like. This is the fastest I've flown through a book in months, and we really needed to hit this stride and get into this flow for this vlog. I love the writing. It's very easy to understand. There's a lot of really good quotes in here. There's a lot of really good metaphors in here. They're dealing with some very heavy topics for this book. Like, not even halfway through, we have dealt with addiction, domestic violence, miscarrying. It's about a family in Texas, in Fort Worth actually, which is really funny because obviously I live in Texas, so a lot of the things they mention and it just feels like someone I know from down the street. Like the activities that they do, like going to the stock show, some of the spots that they go to, like it's all, obviously it just feels like my backyard. I connect with it because of the setting, and we are following generations of a family. And I think the point of that is to show you like the effects of generational trauma and addiction, abuse, and how that runs through a line of a family and how it can really be detrimental to different generations. The book starts with one of our main characters. His name is Ryan, and it opens with a very intense dramatic scene of his childhood, and I think that off the bat gives you insight into one of our main characters and like some things that he's probably going to battle later in his life. And so then we kind of fast forward to a timeline in the 1980s, and we meet our female main character, who is his wife. So it is about like their marriage, and their commitment to each other is so pure and it's so innocent at the beginning. And then throughout the course of their marriage, you see how the things that Ryan dealt with in his childhood come into play within his marriage, and then you see the effects of that on his daughter. It really is a heavy read. It's really sad. Our female main character, like, she's going through her own things and she deals with very heavy things. And my mom was a single mom, so I also just really connect with that part of the book. You see like the toll it takes on her as a woman, and I just like think about my mom when it comes to that, and I can connect with like pieces of Jet and her childhood, which is their daughter. The part that I'm at, she's currently like 7 years old, so I just like connect with some of the things that she's going through, because I remember kind of experiencing a version of that as like an only child, and then being raised by a single mom. And so I don't know, that's why I love literary fiction, because I feel like it's just so insightful. Things that I think people experience every single day but don't know how to put words to. I am not feeling too well today. I feel like I'm on the verge of potentially getting sick. So I just want to have a chill evening with my book, read, and sip my medicine ball tea. I needed to tell you that it has been a few days since I finished The Bright Years. I got a physical copy of it. I ordered it from Amazon, and I was shocked, but also it instantly made sense at how short this book was. It's only 260 pages, which makes me understand why I went through it so quickly. I really thought that I read like a 350 page book like so quickly. I did read this book in 3 days though, and I think that was one of my goals for this vlog, to get out of a reading slump, was to finish a book in under a week. This is the star that made that happen. And my rating for this book is absolutely, without a doubt, 5 stars. It's been like probably like 4 days since I finished this book, and I have thought about the characters several times since finishing it. I feel like they must be real people. Obviously, these are versions of real human stories and real human experiences. In a way, they like are real people. These are people's actual experiences, but just the way she poured so much life into these characters through her writing just was such a joy to read and to read about, even though it was dealing with really deep, heavy topics. And that's also how I know like I truly loved a book, because even when they're sadder and I still miss reading the book, it was also very approachable in this book. Like she didn't make anything too heavy that like you walked away from reading it feeling sad or depressed. Also did it in like such a respectful way for the very heavy topics that she was writing about. I set up the page for it in my reading journal and I wrote so much, even to the next page. And then I want to do a section for some of my favorite quotes, so I think I need to go back and do that. It changed my perspective on like some of my own life. Lillian made me think so much of my own mom and like the struggles through her point of view. By reading Lillian's point of view, I feel like I got some of my own mother's perspective on things that I just like probably would have never realized or thought about until I'm a mom. That is great writing, and also just like made me understand someone in my life better. I also love how it portrays the like consequences and casualties of a strained relationship with a parent. Jet definitely has a very complicated relationship with her father because he struggles with addiction for majority of her life. I think it gave so much insight into loving someone with addiction and the complications of that. It really shows the effect of generational trauma and generational cycles if they are not broken. And I think it is a super important conversation or realization to have as adults. It was heartbreaking, but it was amazing. Moving on to our next book. I did already start it. I wanted to do one more book for this reading vlog, and I was going to choose maybe something fantasy. I didn't want something too long, which is ironic because I ended up choosing quite a long book. I was kind of looking at my TBR and Renee was next to me and I was like, oh, I don't know what I should read. And he was like, you should read Project Hail Mary, because he had actually bought the copy and I forgot. So we do have it like on our bookshelf. And I was like, I'm a little nervous to read that one. I don't really know if that's what I should end the reading vlog with. But then I got so many comments on a little book shopping short I posted from you guys saying you loved Project Hail Mary. And so I was like, oh gosh, I'm sure they would love to see me read it and hear all my thoughts on it. So you already know, I had to start this book. It is out of my comfort zone, but we're hitting the resolutions hard. That was my book resolution for the year, was read things out of my comfort zone. I really don't even watch sci-fi. I don't even know if I have a taste for this genre, and that was part of the problem. Is I was like, I'm never gonna be in the mood for it, so like might as well now. Like I'm never gonna be like, oh, love to read some sci-fi right now. This is going to be a movie this year. If you have not heard, our main character's name is Ryland. At the beginning of the book, he wakes up as the sole survivor on a space mission. So he is on a like literal spaceship. He wakes up and he has no recollection of like who he is, why he's there. As he comes to, he starts to remember a few things. He figures out he's in space. He figures out he's in another solar system. Now I'm on page 80. We're getting flashbacks to the situation that happened on Earth that I'm assuming at some point is going to add up to let us know why he is on this ship and like what actually got him there. But so far the flashbacks are telling us that he was a school teacher, a science teacher, and the situation on Earth gets pretty dire pretty quickly. So the sun is essentially losing power. It's being eaten by a sort of alien. I didn't know aliens were involved with this book. It's being eaten by a sort of microscopic alien, which I love that take on aliens. I haven't seen that before, which is really bad, obviously, because we need the warmth from the sun to survive. So things get really bad, and basically the government is like, oh shoot, like the sun's dying, we know this is happening, and they call him in. He's trying to figure out essentially how they work and why they work, and I think that should at some point answer how to stop them. That's pretty much all I've gotten from the flashback so far. And then in the present tense where he's on the spaceship, he is like actively remembering these things as we read them. There's a lot of science talk. I've also been listening to this because it is taking me a while to get through. I've been reading it for like 3 days and I'm only on page 80. Anyways, that's my update. I'll let you know when I get farther into it, but it's interesting so far. It's just dense. never vlog on my phone, but I am going to right now. I realize I need to give you an update on Project Hail Mary. I'm on page 336. I did talk about it in my last vlog, so I'm just gonna recap quickly because honestly, for the first 200 pages, I didn't have thoughts. I was honestly just having a hard time getting into the story at all. The movie for this comes out in March, and I actually watched the trailer last night, and it's so accurate to the book. Our main character's name is Rylan Grace, and the book starts with him waking up in a spaceship with no recollection of why or how he's there. The writing in this is so heavily detailed. I really just take it at face value because there's so much physics talk and verbiage that I am not understanding majority of it. I just kind of read it and I'm like, okay, and I try my best to follow. So there's kind of like two timelines in this book. So there's the present where Rylan is in space, and then there's the past where we see the starting point for this story. In a nutshell, Project Hail Mary is like Earth's best and last attempt at trying to figure out how to fix this problem. It's such an interesting perspective because Rylan is actually a elementary science teacher. Obviously he has expertise in the field, but also he's like a complete amateur, and so it's just like really cool to read through that perspective. He is slowly remembering the pieces of the past few years on Earth and like why he's here and the people he met and the people that sent him there, and that's the past POV that we get to read through. And slowly we're getting to see like how this entire thing played out. They're on such a crunch timeline because Earth is dying while he's out there trying to figure this out, and it's just crazy that he's like out there by himself, like actually worst nightmare ever. It's giving me very much Interstellar vibes. It was hard for me to take a liking to it because it was obviously out of my comfort zone, but also like out of my taste, but I really like it now. I really like it. I used the audiobook a lot the first half, and then I would say probably around halfway I really started to like find flow with it, and I started to enjoy reading it physically, and so now I've just been reading it. And he meets an unlikely friend in space, and I love Rocky. Literally my only annotation in this book is I want Rocky as a pet. Rocky and Rylan make a friendship in space, and it's like my favorite part of the book. It like drew me in so much. I found it so endearing. I'm kind of in awe of his storytelling and his creativity because I'm like, how could you just think of this? So I really wonder like where it's gonna go from here, if he's gonna figure it out in time, if he goes back home, if Rocky stays his friend. Like I really hope so. I'm in the last 15 pages and I really wonder how they're gonna wrap all of this up right now. I really enjoyed this book. I'm so on edge in these last 10 pages. To have a friendship like Rocky and Grace's. What a great ending. Wow, this is an insanely complex book. I can't even imagine what it was like writing this. I am here to wrap up this reading vlog. I'm gonna keep this so short and sweet because I think one of the best parts about this book was that I found out all of the plot points as I was going along. So I don't want to tell you too much beyond what I've already told you about this book. All you need to know is that a science school teacher is tasked with saving the world on a pretty much fatal space mission while the Earth is literally dying. He meets an unlikely friend. It is the sweetest thing ever. This book took such a turn that I was not expecting. I thought it was going to be really, I guess you could say, plot driven, but I did not expect how much character development and emotion would be tied in with this book, and that's really what made this such an enjoyable read for me. Once I met Rocky, I was invested. I was so into it. The ending is so sweet. The last chapter of the book literally had me tearing up. I really liked it. I do think once you can get past the first 200 pages, the payoff is amazing. And I find as I read more complex books, that's really the main running theme, is that you have to give the author time to set up big storylines they're trying to create for you, and then the payoff is always what makes the book so amazing, which is usually the second half of the book. So I'm not mad at it. I did not realize that this is widely considered one of the best audiobook recordings to listen to. Oh my gosh, it is so good. And it's not even one of those like super dramatized ones. The narrator is so talented, and I started seeing like TikToks about it, and everyone is always just like raving about the audiobook, and I'm so happy that I downloaded it. I think it makes the experience so much better. I literally want to go back and listen to like the last 3 chapters on audio because I read them. That's just where I'm going to leave this. I recommend this book to you even if you're not a sci-fi reader, but I recommend probably listening to the first half on audio. I did rate this book 4.75 stars. It's not a full 5-star read for me, only because those first 200 pages were pretty hard for me to get through, but honestly lives up there in like some of my all-time favorite books. So I'm so happy I read it. That is it for this reading vlog. This video needs to go up literally within the next hour, so I'm just gonna import this footage and upload this. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more reading vlogs this year, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what your current read is, and also if you did read Project Hail Mary, for one of the reveals, are you team Strat or are you team Ryland Grace? Because I think I'm like I get both, but I feel like I'm team Grace because like what the heck was that? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye.